Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the MultiDimensional MD. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from because I always love to hear from you. My name is Dr. Arlene Diamco, and I'm an integrative physician, a pediatrician, and a cranial osteopath. And my mission is to help bring spirit and intuition back to medicine in a more practical and tangible way. So today I had a switch of topics, had a reschedule, and I just felt really called. I kept hearing my dad say to me, talk about me. And I was like, really? Because I've talked about my dad a lot. As many of you know, he crossed over earlier this year in January. So this last weekend marks 6 months from when he crossed over. And I just kept hearing that, like, talk about me, talk about me. So I want to share my experience with you of 6 months later and how I find comfort in the grieving process and what I've learned, what I've grown through, how it feels like that I can still be here present in my body, still feeling joy and happipiness, even though I'm sad that he has left in this physical realm. So I hope that if you have lost someone, or if you're grieving anything in your life, or somebody that you know has lost someone, that maybe these messages will be helpful for you too. So the first thing I wanted to mention are coincidences are little miracles. And there are coincidences all through our lives. And, sometimes maybe you get a feeling of like deja vu, or you get a wonder of like, oh, I wonder how that happened. Well, these coincidences are little miracles. And I like to say it in that way because when we say, oh, it's just a coincidence, we can still be like happy and celebrate that. But when we call it a little miracle, it gives it more depth. And then we start to understand like, oh, okay. So maybe these things like that the little one said had some meaning, or maybe you heard a phrase, or you heard a song come up on the radio, maybe you think of something. So these aren't coincidences. Well, they are coincidences, but they're also little miracles. And when you start to see things like that, it really can start to give your life more depth and meaning. The second thing in this quick podcast is that not to be afraid of living. And when someone has crossed over, there's this so much of fear of death. But for me, it's like more so than that. It's don't fear living. And even for me, how that's shown up is that I have had more courage to share my experiences with you, and to go on and just like be yourself, be who you are. Don't be afraid to share who you are with the world, because everybody is so part of this unique fabric of the universe, and you are this single thread. And I talk about this all the time, but in different ways. It's like today it's like, well, in that way, then don't be afraid of bringing who you are into your life and really getting the most out of your day, of every single moment. So it's like, how would I like to live in this moment, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the difficulties you're facing? It's like, how can I make the best of it right now? And so to not be afraid to miss this moment of opportunity. And yeah, there's always stressors, there's always things that feel really difficult. But even with all of that, how can you make the best of it right now, this second, in this moment, and bring yourself into it, and bring your uniqueness, and bring your gifts and your personality, into this moment, whether it's a moment of ease or a moment just like feeling more challenges and difficulty. And when you do that, you are actually stepping into the ease of your living. So, I know we always say like be yourself, but it's like teasing that apart to know what that means. And, part of that for me is not being afraid of living in this moment, even if it's hard. Let's just see what would happen if I really brought myself, right? What do you have to lose? So, especially once you've already confronted death or lost somebody who's crossed over before you, or maybe you've been through your own experience in that way, it's also a grieving process. Maybe you've got a chronic illness and you've survived, and now how can you thrive? Or maybe you're still having illness, but even with that, how can you thrive in this moment with your presence and live this moment fully? So, not to be afraid of any of your emotions, not to be afraid of the pain, not to be afraid of living this moment fully as yourself, with your personality, with your unique perspective. So, feel that, don't just listen to the words, but like, how does that feel in your body? And then look around and then feel like, what does this mean to me to live this moment fully right now? It could be like, I'm going to take a deeper breath. It could be, I'm going to make this phone call. It could be, I'm going to take this step towards something that I've always wanted to do. So the next thing is to follow the signs. At any given moment, there are messages. And I've talked about before how my dad had laid out feathers and for so many people in the extended family. And sometimes people are wondering, well, is this a real message? And then a few steps later, they would see bigger feathers, or the next day or a few days later, there would be like bigger and bigger feathers, because it's like you couldn't believe it. So then there was another sign just to confirm that. So, I've talked about those feathers and the butterflies and the birds that linger maybe a little bit longer or fly a little bit closer. And those butterflies too, that you're like, oh, well, maybe that one's like a little bit more unique, or maybe just caught your eye. But it is even more than the feathers and the butterflies and the birds, because at any given moment, there are signs and messages all around you, and it's part of just waking up to it. And I feel this and think about this wherever I am, whoever I'm talking to, because part of it's like, okay, if I'm really present, then what kind of message, what can I get out of this moment? This is continuation of like not being afraid of living. And so maybe it's just listening to someone fully with your presence and seeing what they have to say and feeling how they're saying it. So, so that you don't miss any little detail. It's not a fear of missing out, but it's that often the signs are right in front of you. And so much in the grieving process, it's like, someone has crossed over, and so people are missing them, but often the signs are right there, right in front of you. And so I could look around my room, and it's like, what catches your eye? Maybe it's like, oh, well, I see these flowers on the lamp next to me, and that reminds me of my dad's garden. Or I see this color, this dress that's folded on the dresser. It's red, and then all of a sudden I think of red, and I thought of high school, and then these events we had in high school, and that also reminds me of like, oh, how my dad like prepared these meals for these great parties. So it's so interesting. I can look around any moment. And if you would like help practicing this, then I would love to do this with you. Just anytime you see me, we could look around and be like, let's look around, see what do we see in this moment that can give us meaning. And it's a soft focus, so it's not trying to tunnel vision and reach out, grab it, and find it. So it's more like letting those signs and meaning come to you. So it could be looking at a painting and then noticing a certain design in it, and that triggers a memory in you, and that memory itself has its own meaning to it. So The signs are all around, and it's how can we follow them, especially when you feel like they're trying to tell you something. Maybe it's just bringing about a memory and how you feel. And it's like, remember this. And so it's remember, the love is still there. Remember, I'm still there. So feel this from my dad all the time. I'm still here. And I mean, I feel his presence too. And so, looking around at these signs, it's like, it's really just more this confirmation. But when I say follow the signs, you really have to go for it, and not, it's okay, like when you're not sure. So that's okay to have a hesitation. But that's the next step, where it's like, well, have some faith, because when you see these things, and even if it was just like one feather, or then another feather, you know, needing to keep having that confirmation, each one of those moments is already significant, and it's already enough. And it's because we have these human minds and egos that keep fighting it. It's like, are you sure? I mean, why would that be it? Like, isn't that a coincidence? And that's what I said before. It's like, well, coincidences are little miracles. So have some depth out of following the signs. And that means having some faith that there are multiple dimensions. This is part of why I name my practice like All World Health. We are multi-dimensional beings. And so to have faith that we are, you are, because we have this body, we have this mind, but then we have something more than that. We have this presence of our being. And so just having faith, even if you just think of it in more simple terms of like mind, body, spirit. So have faith that you are a multidimensional being, and then have faith that your loved one that is crossed over is still a multidimensional being. And so in that way, you can follow the signs, you can recognize them, they're right in front of you, and you can feel comfort in that. So at any given moment, even if I feel sad of missing my dad, I also don't miss him in a way, because I feel him right in here. He's right in here next to me. I can feel him like smiling, because I followed the signs. I followed what he asked me to do today, which was talk about me, talk about him. And, sometimes I felt kind of silly. So that was my ego mind, like saying like, really? I mean, I keep talking about him, and don't you think like people are tired of hearing about that? And do they really want to hear about all the details of my process? And I kept feeling, I was like, well, some people do. So yes, go ahead and do it, because the people that need to hear it, they will get something out of this. And so that was my faith of like, okay, I will do it. I will follow the calling, and I will do it. I'll follow the signs, and I won't be afraid of living. And I'll realize that these coincidences are little miracles, and I have faith in our multidimensional beings to be able to share this with you today. So this is a short little podcast today. But my last thing is to just love. That's it. To bring yourself to fully present into the moment, but to not be afraid of loving yourself, not being afraid of loving other people. And in order to do that, it really needs to start with loving yourself, because it's hard to be fully present for another person. And that gift of presence is one of the greatest gifts of all, because that gift of presence is really showing your love and sharing your love with another person. But it's hard to do that when you don't embrace yourself fully, love yourself fully. And so it is not selfish to love yourself. It is not selfish to take the time for yourself, to seek some quiet so that you can recuperate, to rest, to eat nourishing foods, and to sit down and meditate, and to exercise. So all those basic things, getting enough sleep. So when you do that, it makes it so much easier to share your love with other people, and they will be able to feel that shift when you do that. Because when you don't take care of yourself, of course, it's so much easier to have like fireworks, right? So it's one of the greatest gifts that you could give anyone is to care for yourself, to love yourself. And that way you can love other people, share with yourself, with other people, and also help take care of this earth and this world and all its beings on it. So a short podcast today, and that's what I had to share with you. And I hope that you were able to get something out of it. And it's really talking about the priorities in life and not being afraid to talk about what's most important to us, because if we do, that's what everyone's craving. So if we just go for it, let's go ahead and talk about the things that are important to us. It's so comforting to live that way. And then I can have peace in my heart and mind and body, and joy and happiness, even in moments of sadness and sorrow and grief, that it can all come together in this multi-dimensional experience. So lots of love to you. Thank you so much for joining me again today for another episode of the MultiDimensional MD. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at All Worlds Health, or my website, allworldshealth.com. And have a beautiful rest of your week. I will see you next time, Wednesday, 11 a.m. EST. And right now, the topic is sound healing with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Shawn Marie Higgins. She has a beautiful course that she has created, and she's brilliant, and she has so much to share. So I'm looking forward for you to share that with you too. So have a great week. Lots of love to you. Take care.